lieu fee is essentially an option for the developer if the project that he's building is not really conducive to affordable housing. For example, if they're building on a hillside, foundation costs and grading costs would be quite high for that, and that would raise the costs of the units in that particular project, and they could then apply for to pay an in lieu fee instead of building those units on their hillside development. If they're on the flatlands, it's going to be a lot easier for them to do foundation grading and put that in. So in the next section, it's the affordable housing standards. There was some heavy discussion on that with both groups about what size units needed to be and what kind of condition. We wanted everything to look similar to the rest of the development so that the units in the affordable units would not be called out as special on the outside, but housing providers reinforce the concept that, well, if we're building a development that has granite countertops, we can't afford to put them in affordable units. So that was negotiated back and forth, and there's an agreed upon. The outside must be the same, but the inside could be comparable. And you can see a discussion of type of units and square footage for the units. Housing providers asked for it to be lowered a bit than from standard because that would make it more affordable. There was a discussion about when the affordable units had to be developed, and there was input on whether they would want standard language in some ordinances says that once 30% of the development is developed, all the inclusionary units have to be done. There was discussion about, well, okay, what if we make that 40% and that's when you start it, but they all have to be done by the end of 80%. And then the discussions back and forth with the two groups, that was acceptable to everyone. This next section is the inclusionary housing credit. This is a section that deals with the fact that some developments are more conducive to affordable housing than others. Again, as we've said, that maybe a developer would choose to do 50% affordable in one development, and that could be a credit towards another project that he's doing in an area where it would not be as easy to make them affordable. Also, there's a provision in there for developers being able to get together on a project and build a 100% affordable, and then that would be credits again for other projects. Or a developer might be able to build an affordable project and then sell credits to a different developer. So all of those things were discussed in the groups and acceptable. There's a couple of alternatives in the next section. The in lieu fee, as we mentioned before, is an alternative. The other thing would be a donation of land. If a housing provider has another piece of property in a similar area that is very conducive to affordable housing, they could donate that land instead of building the units in their project. And those alternatives and the in lieu fees are discussed in those two sections. In lieu fee, setting the in lieu fee, that was very debatable back and forth between both groups of people. We finally came to a semi-agreement on the fact that it could be 10% of the countywide median sales price of a single-family residence of the same size. And that would be determined in the spring by the county assessor what the median sales price for that year would be, and then it would be a percentage of that.
Do you know what that is right now?
It's just dropped. Last year, the median sales price was around $370,000, and I believe up until the second quarter this year, it's down to about $285,000, $290,000.
Okay, and again, that'll change after...
Yearly.
Yearly, okay.
Yeah, so that percentage would also, the percentage would remain the same, but the actual fee would change with that median house price.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. The next section is incentives. We had a discussion about how many incentives would be available for what size project and what percentage of inclusionary or affordable houses were included. And of course, you can imagine there was a very wide range of likes and dislikes with that. Housing providers would like to have more incentives, and other people would like to limit the number. And you can see on page 7 where we start talking about the number of incentives. But we did put in a provision where one additional incentive can be dedicated for, can be inserted for dedicated to low income only, if it's restricted, because at the applicability section talks about very low, extremely low, low, and moderate income are all considered to be affordable housing. We would like to encourage focus on the low income because that's the biggest problem that we have in the county, and so we've put this additional incentives available by how much affordable units there are.
And a question. Was this an area of mutual agreement, or was this the area where the staff inserted common practices?
The number of incentives allowed was staff recommendation. As I said, some people wanted much